Go get a blanket and come and sit with me and I'll read a book. This is called Giant on the Bus. The giant says, "I'm feeling tired. Here comes the bus. I'll take a ride." So she catches the bus at Garden Square and finds the money for her fare. The driver mutters, the driver mumbles, "Too big, too big," the driver grumbles. But people always make a fuss when a giant gets on a bus. The seats on the bus are far too small. The giant can't sit down at all. Instead, she has to lie on the floor, her head near the back and her feet near the door. The driver doesn't know what to do. He can't see past the giant's shoe. The passengers cry, "Ridiculous to have a giant on the bus." All goes well until a large bee flies in and sits on the giant's knee. The giant tries to move her legs and breaks a basket full of eggs. While wiping egg yolk off her feet, she knocks a sailor out of his seat. In putting the sailor back in place, she squashes a cake in an old man's face. She's doing her best to clean up the mess when she spills soup down a woman's dress. While she's trying to apologize, she puts her hand in some custard pies. And although she wipes her hand with care, she gets custard in the passenger's hair. The passengers scream, they stamp and shout, "Driver, throw that giant out." The driver pretends he hasn't heard and keeps on going without a word. It takes a man of genius to throw a giant off a bus. The bus goes on with its giant load, then stops at the edge of a country road. The driver says to the people, "I feel there's something wrong with the right front wheel. We've got a problem. The tire is flat, but I'm afraid there's more to it than that. We're far from a gas station, far from a phone, and I've left the spare wheel and my tools at home." The people get out and mutter and moan. "We could be stuck here for hours," they groan. The driver says, "Now, don't get a fright, but I think we're going to be here all night. We'll have to wait for the morning bus to come along and rescue us." This puts the passengers into a state. "We'll be late," they cry, "a whole day late." Then a huge voice says, "May I make an appeal that I be allowed to change that wheel?" And without the slightest bit of fuss, the giant lifts up the heavy bus. She unscrews the nuts between finger and thumb, loosens the wheel, and off it comes. She pulls the tire off with her teeth, looks at the tube that is underneath, and says, "I see a big hole in it, but I can patch that in a minute." The giant fixes the tube and then puts the wheel together again. The driver says, "I do admire the ease with which you change a tire, but I'm afraid I don't know where you're going to find that tiresome air." "I'm full of air," the giant quips, raising the bus wheel to her lips. She takes a deep breath, and very soon the tire's blown up like a big black balloon. A moment later, they're on their way with the passengers shouting aloud, "Hooray!" And the driver says, "Miraculous to have a giant on the bus." The people think that the giant is great, and then they begin to celebrate. They give her flowers, a very large bunch, and ask her to join them while they have lunch. And then they sing her a hearty song about a giant who's kind and strong. But then people always make a fuss when there's a giant on the bus.